We are going through the 10 strongest Space Marine characters in Warhammer 40,000. This video list is not just to entertain you with how cool these characters are, it is actually to inform you how to run some of these and help your game plan so that you can further crush the battlefield. And if you're not a Space Marine player, we're going to make sure you understand what these guys do so that you can have a fighting chance against some of the Imperium's finest. So basically, this is a ranking criteria. We have 10 characters, and the way that we're going to rank things is based off of raw power durability. But the big one for me is going to be army synergy and the buffing the utility. So like, how do these characters impact the army you're running? You might have a character who can run out there and be like, let's say, a smash captain. So like, for example, a rage-fueled warrior from Liberated Assault Group. He could run out and get 18 freaking power fist attacks that are potentially devastating wounds, and that's an incredibly raw powered character, but he's not necessarily influencing with the way the army itself plays. So he wouldn't make this list. Also, another thing I'm not doing is I'm not including detachment specific builds. So let's say the Artificer Armor Gravis Captain out there. Like, yes, okay, the Artificer Armor Gravis Captain is a very good character. I would rather be ranking the Gravis Captain himself, though, right? So I'm not talking about just the specific version of him with a enhancement. That would get nitty-gritty, and oh my gosh, the arguments that could occur with that. So we're going to be talking about the characters themselves and what they are actually bringing to the table. So overall influence on winning games, things like that. So these are my rankings. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments down below, what it is. And I want to know all the predictions. Who do you think is going to grab number one? It's going to be someone spicy, and it's not going to be the sad solo librarian who unfortunately is just he's not cracking it. And to all of those other ones of you out there, by the way, the Calidus Assassin is not a Space Marine character, so she doesn't count. She doesn't get to include. Now, there were a bunch of honorable mentions I wanted to throw in here. I'm not going to go through that entire section. There are a lot of really good unnamed and named characters in the Codex Space Marines. Mephiston and the Sanguinor come to mind real fast. Those characters are incredible, but they're not necessarily going to influence the way that the army plays. The Sanguinor a little bit, but with his expense, I just don't think he cracked the top 10, even though I do believe he's a very, very good character. So here we go. Number 10. I'm actually going to go with something that might really surprise a lot of people with number 10, and this is Vulkan Histan. Vulkan is a beast, and people don't really recognize what he does. He and Ajax together make Firestorm or the new Forge Father Seekers detachment actually playable. So this guy by himself can really dramatically influence the way that his army plays. He gives a target unit, he just selects one enemy unit within 24 inches, and he says, all of my flamers and melter weapons get full reroll wound rolls against that target. Now, this is incredibly powerful, especially when you stack on the fact that since they are a Codex compliant chapter, they get the +1 to wound from Super Oath. So typically you would never oath the target that you're shooting with flamers, right? However, using it to get the +1 to wound bonus makes sense to actually oath flamers in this detachment. And they have a stratagem, which is going to cost, I believe it's 2 CP, but you're going to give devastating wounds to flamer weapons. This is an incredible ability that can make a unit of Infernus Marines drop down, look at an Imperial Knight, and just kill it. You would roll your 10d6 flamer shots. You're getting full wound rerolls with potentially +1 to wound if you oath them as well. And then this is giving you devastating wounds on 6s with your full wound rolls. You could just one-tap a big knight with a unit of Infernus Marines, which gives an incredible amount of flexibility and play to the army itself. So Vulkan himself is a dramatic buff to the entire army. Also, he allows you to do that into a unit that's not your oath target. You don't have to oath that. You could oath something else. So you can get your +1 to wounds elsewhere and get your full devastating wound bomb on another target, allowing you to get 2 huge damage bombs out there in one go. He's also extremely durable as an individual model, because when he gets on his stated objective, he's going to get OC10, he's going to get a 4 at Fiona Pain, and he's going to go to leadership 5 up. This is a very, very big deal, especially when you consider that the majority of time he's probably going to be running with those company heroes. When those company heroes will give the unit the -1 to be wounded, it becomes shockingly durable. Now, he has 110 points, which I think might be a little high. Maybe I'd like to see him down at the 100, but this guy is a dramatic influence on his detachment, and he's going to make sure that his detachment has legs to stand on, even though it's one of the lesser played detachments. So, Vulkan Histan, here's to you, my friend. All right, let's talk about number 2. Now, this is going to be from some of the more heretical players. We got Chaplain Grimaldus. This guy is a absolute beast, and he is defining for the way that the army plays. He's an extremely flexible unit who has the ability to just straight up grant full rerolls to hit to whatever unit he is leading. And this is incredibly powerful with an army that inherently just has so many natural abilities on their normal weapons. So if you're running with a Crusader blob, all those freaking chainswords are going to have sustained hits natively, which is disgusting when you get full rerolls to hit with it, meaning you don't need Oath of Moment, which is a good thing because Black Templars don't have Oath of Moment, but every freaking unit in their army gets full rerolls to hit anyway, so they don't need Oath of Moment. If you're leading Sword Brethren with them, then you just get to fish for those lethals, so you don't have to worry about it. Of course, there are other combinations, and a lot of people I'm sure are going to be typing in the comments, oh, this guy's an idiot. Maybe he should have said the Castellan or the Marshal. Well, I'm not an idiot, and I'm talking about solo individual characters. Yes, the Castellan and the Marshal combination is brutal, because that's what's going to get you like full rerolls to hit, fishing for crits on 5s. I totally understand that, and that's incredible, but we're talking about individual characters. We're not talking about character combinations. So Grimaldus is actually awesome. He gives the full rerolls to hit. In addition to that, he can give the unit +1 toughness, which you'll probably never take. He can give them +1 AP, which you'll probably take a lot, because suddenly all of those chainswords for the Crusader blobs, AP2, with most likely +1 to wound, because you're going to have the oath that gives you +1 to wound if you're going into a strength of toughness that's the same or higher than your strength. Or he could also give them +1 to advance to charge, which is also, can make them quite fast. So that's 110 points. Very, very strong. I like Chaplain Grimaldus a lot. He's probably the best character that Black Templars have, although, High Marshal Hubrecht is good, but Grimaldus is something special. All right, let's talk about a non-named character here. So this is the Combi Lieutenant, or the Lieutenant with Combi-weapon. This is a normal Marine. He has no name, and he himself is in almost every single list, and he's doing it for a reason. He's only 70 points, which is very cheap, right about the cheapest thing that you can take in the army. He grants an extremely underrated army buff, which is he gets to choose any objective marker on the battlefield and says, hey, you know what? My entire army gets to reroll wound rolls of 1 on any enemy unit that's touching said objective marker. This can be your opponent's home field. It can be your opponent's natural expansion. It can be your natural expansion. So based off of where you think the combat is going to be, that buff is actually quite impressive. In addition to this, he has stealth. He's got a reactive move of flat 6, which is incredibly powerful. He has a low nop. All this combined makes him an incredibly difficult unit to interact with, because if you move up to charge him, he'll just move away, probably behind a ruin, probably right next to a unit that has fights first that you don't want to engage with. If you try to move up to shoot him, well, depending on the angle that you're trying to shoot him, you might have to be within 9 inches, which allows him to reactive move. So, and just right off the bat, you're going to have to be within 12 inches of him, which makes it hard to shoot him because of that low nop. So he's very hard to interact with. He has a lot of tricks. He will allow for a lot of scoring. And honestly, and I know I'm not talking about individual strats, individual enhancements and detachments and stuff, but there are a lot of detachments where you can give him a relatively cheap enhancement to allow him to stand up after he dies, which creates a huge problem for your opponents who are trying to deal with the Combi Lieutenant. So he's an amazing model, and he's in basically every single Space Marine list for a reason. Only 70 points. Let's talk about number 7. We're getting into a Chapter Master here. This is Marneus Calgar. Marneus Calgar, he is a classic freaking powerhouse. He has extremely strong buffs. He's amazingly hard hitting melee. He is amazing in all of our Ultramarine detachments. Well, I guess all detachments that are Ultramarine run. Freaking 10th edition. Anyway, he has one of the top 5 combat buffs in the entire game. This dude gives his entire unit advance and charge, and advance shoot and charge, and fall back shoot and charge. Just right off the bat, you have full freedom of movement. Now, I know people will be like, oh, that's not a combat buff, that's a movement buff. Yeah, whatever. It's a movement buff that enables combat. It is extremely powerful and unbelievably good. In addition to this, he's going to generate free CP for you, and he is insanely durable. He is so durable. The guy has a 2-up armor save, a 4-up invulnerable save. He has a 4-up feel no pain as long as one of his Victrix Honor Guard is currently alive, which means you can never precision him out. And since he comes with a 2 Victrix Honor Guard, he increases the damage profile of whatever unit he attaches to by quite a bunch. He's also relatively viable by himself, so after his bodyguard unit dies, you can kill off one of his Victrix Honor Guard, and then put the rest of the wounds on Marneus Calgar, who has a 4-up Feel No Pain, hoping that he doesn't, to extend the lifeblood of that unit, because he becomes exceptionally durable at that level. So he's incredible. He does crazy damage, very tanky, generates CP, freedom of movement, could go just nuke whatever he wants to nuke. He does everything. He's awesome. He's number 7 in our list. By the way, if you're making it to this point in the video, who do you think is going to make number 10? I want to know in the comments down below. Let me know who you think is going to be number 1 in the list. Now, number 6. The guy has one of the greatest models in the history of Warhammer 40,000, and I'm still sad that it's not as cool as his old model. This is Logan Grimnar. Logan Grimnar is a bane of the existence of a lot of people who are playing against freaking Space Marines. This guy actually just kind of just completely destroys most people's game plans. Yeah, the ruiner of game plans, if you will. Once per battle round, he's going to let a unit come in from reserves as if it was a turn earlier. What this means is he activates turn 1 deep strikes. And if you have not had a 10-man unit of Wolfguard Terminators deep strike onto your natural expansion, and then try to figure out how the heck are you going to deal with that when they deep strike turn 1 so you don't have a moment to actually screen them, you haven't lived, and it's a horrible feeling, and you basically auto-lose the game when it happens. So Logan Grimnar is a monster. He can also enable things to come out of strategic reserves a turn earlier, which means in turn 2, you can come out of strategic reserves into your opponent's deployment zone, which is a really big problem because most of the time people are not prepared to be screening that. So he ruins your game plans. Not to mention, he's got this casual ability called a Vectora, so everything within 12 inches, you have to increase the cost of command points by 1 to use any command points. My goodness gracious, that is brutal. And then he's got a big damage 3 punch in melee. Damage 3 punch is not that common in a lot of characters. I know we had it on Marneus, and now we've got it on Logan Grimnar, but you're not going to see it many other times on this list. It's so powerful. For 110 points, this guy can run solo. This guy can run attached. He is awesome. He 100% deserves his slot on this top 10 list. Now, number 5, we're going to get a little sneakier with it. So let's talk about Mr. Kayvaan Shrike. Now, a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, this guy's just hopping on the train because, oh, Raven Guard, blah, blah, blah. No one ever thought Kayvaan Shrike was good before. Kayvaan Shrike has been good the entire edition. The reason why we've never seen Kayvaan Shrike is because there was no reason to take a army with just Kayvaan Shrike when you could have run it as Ultramarines or even Salamanders or any of these detachments that have or any of the sub-factions, I guess, chapters that have multiple special characters would just outclass even one good character. Now, he's really, really good. Now, with the addition of Athon Shan, now it makes it worth it to run Raven Guard, which is why we're now seeing Kayvaan Shrike. Kayvaan Shrike is going to give his entire unit loan up, and he can just go back into reserves at the end of your opponent's turn, meaning if you go second, you would just start him on the battlefield, and if you go second, because your opponent goes first, you can just up down on him at the end of your opponent's turn 1 and then deep strike him turn 1. This also gives you the opportunity to, if you have him in reserves, he can come down with a rapid ingress 12.1 inches away from your opponent, so it's impossible for your opponent to interact with his entire unit, and his entire unit can be a squad of, Vanguard veterans with Infernal pistols, which means in your turn, you then just move up your 12 inches, shoot whatever you want. If you're shooting into the Oath of Moment target, you're shooting at +1 to wound with those freaking melter pistols, and then charge and absolutely obliterate and ruin the day of basically anyone. He's awesome in Gladius. He's awesome in the Raven Guard Talonmarch detachment. He's awesome in a lot of places, and I definitely think he's worth your time to explore. He's only 100 points, and since he can repeatedly go back into reserves, oh boy, if your opponent doesn't deal with them with the first opportunity they get, they're never going to deal with them, and it's a very, very big problem. So Kayvaan Shrike, rockstar. Number 4, one of the Golden Boys himself. I love him. He's gotten some flack recently, and I think it's because people fundamentally don't understand how he operates. Let's talk about the Undying Commander, Dante. This dude has been incredible since the new Blood Angels Codex has come out. He was even good back in Index, but he's been amazing since the Codex has been out. And a lot of people think that now that Sanguinary Guard got the buff where they get to hit on 2s natively, that he's useless, and they're all dead wrong. They're all wrong. He gives +1 to hit, and I cannot tell you how many times in the game I run into a -1 to be hit modifier. So that's still a big deal. Even though it's not as impactful as it previously was, it doesn't make Dante any less good. It just makes Sanguinary Guard better. Now, he still has the bonuses to movement, which is why I would always bring him. He gives +1 to advance and charge, which means if you're running him in something like Liberated Assault Group, which is the typical Blood Angel detachment, you have a potential 19-inch movement with +1 to charge. That is insane board control, just being able to effectively teleport across the battlefield because you move so freaking fast. He also has one of the most powerful battle shock mechanisms in the entire game, and I know a lot of people don't like battle shock mechanisms. For the life of me, I cannot understand. The battle shock mechanism is so powerful on Dante. He has a 6-inch aura of battle shock at -1 in every fight phase, not just your own. And you don't have to be engaged with him either. This means that he could be behind a ruin and extending a 6-inch aura so that if your opponent happens to be trying to get, oh, I don't know, area denial by being within 3 of the center, they have to battle shock, and if they fail it, they don't get area denial anymore. This also means that if your opponents do fail the battle shock at -1, means it's actually possible, suddenly they can't spend 2 CP to interrupt, which gives you information about where you want to start your combat phase. He's so good. He's amazing. He can run solo, because if you're running him, especially in Liberator Assault Group, he can one-tap a War Dog by himself. You can run him with 3 Sanguinary Guard, because he's effectively is the hitting power of 2 Sanguinary Guard on his own. Or you can run him with a 6 to get the true Death Star to go murder people. Dante is a freaking monster, and I don't need to say anything else about him. For 120 points, we love this man. Also, he does go well with Van Vets, just as an aside. Then we talk about Roboute Guilliman, the Blueberry himself. This guy has been brutal all edition. People have really, really liked him, and for a good reason. When he's within 3 inches of an Adeptus Astartes infantry, he gets blown up. When he dies, he stands up on a 3+, which may be a little unreliable, but still very brutal for your opponent if they have to deal with him twice. He gives 2 Oath of Moment targets, because being a Loyalist Primarch, he gets to choose 2 of his 3 Primarch abilities every single turn. And he's basically always going to choose Double Oath, which is so powerful. So you get 2 Oath of Moment targets in a battle round. And then he also will give the ability to, within 12 inches, discount a stratagem by 1 CP, meaning Ultramarines can pretty much have unlimited CP. And they really had unlimited CP before Marneus Calgar got nerfed earlier. But now, he even has that third ability still really good, where he can give +1 OC leadership to a unit. That's also still really good. You're just pretty much always going to see the Double Oath, and since it's Ultramarines compliant codex, they get +1 to wound into their Oath of Moment targets. And let's just not forget, the guy still slaps in melee. He's got devastating wounds, he's got sustained hits. This guy is still a very good melee fighter. And for 340 points, there's a reason why you see him on the tabletop so often. The guy's a beast. Let's talk about someone who's slightly more of a beast, though, and it's actually related to Roboute Guilliman. It's the Lion El'Jonson, who's actually a freaking beast. So I was of the mindset that he was probably the best Primarch before his changes in the most recent balanced data slate. But what the change is now he's similar to Roboute Guilliman, where he gets to choose 2 of his 3 Primarch abilities. This does make actually quite a big difference in him. A lot of people think that he is just like Guilliman's lesser younger brother. No. This guy dramatically affects the way any Dark Angel list is ever going to play. He has hyper mobility. He can, in the command phase, he can just go back into reserves. What this means is that if you go first, he's one of like maybe 5 models in the entire game that can actually rapid ingress in turn 1. It only works if you go first, of course, because you would have to put yourself in reserves in your command phase. But he could conceivably rapid ingress in turn 1, which can just instantaneously win games if your opponent is not prepared for it. I always warn my opponent about this, and I recommend you do as well. He has fights first, which makes him very challenging to charge with a very devastating profile. He's got a sweep attack, which is 16 attacks, strength 6, AP 3, damage 2 with sustained hits, and he's got a strike profile of 8 attacks at strength 12, AP 4, damage 4 with lethal hits. And his other abilities to choose for auras are also really amazing. You can choose the reroll 1s to hit and wound aura, or you can choose the aura of a 4-up Feel No Pain against mortal wounds. So suddenly this guy is almost as durable as the demon Primarchs out there, because he's T9, he's -1 to be wounded against anything that has higher strength than his toughness, so las cannons, etc. They're always winning him on 4s, which is a big deal. He has a 3-up invulnerable save. He's got a 4-up Feel No Pain against mortals. This guy is a powerhouse, and he's got fight first, so you can't even charge him. He is Giga Chad status. And his ability to rapid ingress and then heroic intervene can make a lot of the Dark Angels units just completely unchargeable. So Lion El'Jonson for 315, beautiful. I think he's the 2nd best Space Marine character in the game. And then finally, we're going into the #1 Space Marine character in the game. Now, this guy, before the Lion get his buff, was the only reason you would ever see Dark Angels anywhere. Any detachment that could have access to Azrael would instantaneously take Azrael. Azrael himself has the 2nd best combat buff in the game. The only combat buff that's better than him would be like Morven Vol, because Morven Vol just gives full rerolls to hit and wound to her unit. But as far as Space Marines are concerned, this guy's going to give his unit sustained hits. He's going to give his unit a 4-up invulnerable save and a once per game 4-up against mortals. This is so much just stacking buffs onto a big unit. In addition to this, he gives a CP generation in your command phase, which is amazing. he enables entire game plans, especially with more of the recent Dark Angel armies like your Wrath of the Rock, where it is a very CP intensive game. He himself has a really good anti-infantry gun that comes with devastating wounds that now gets sustained hits when he's leading a unit. So he can lead Stern Guard, he can lead Hellblasters, he can lead ICC to make ICC one of the most damaging units in the games, because then they get both lethal and sustained hits on their strike profile and a 4-up invuln, which they previously didn't have. The guy defines the way the Dark Angels play, and I can't imagine a single chapter out there that, if they could have access to Azrael, wouldn't take him. He is so good, and at 115, we absolutely adore Azrael. So I do believe he is the best character in the entire, or Space Marine character available. So final takeaways for you guys. Space Marines, they're thriving through synergy, not just solo carry models. It's not necessarily that the Lion is so powerful. It's that when you have the Lion in your army, you can't really position on the table to charge any of the models, because he will always threaten you with a rapid ingress to heroic intervention to invalidate your charges. So these the Guilliman gives you a double Oath of Moment target. Calgar gives you the ability to be wherever you need to be with the advance of charge, as would someone like Dante. So these units really define how their factions actually get to play. It's not just about how brutally strong they are. They enhance the entire detachments. So even off-meta heroes get to dominate in the right context. I absolutely love this list of Space Marines. These are my top 10. I want to know your thoughts. Who would you have included and who would you have kicked off? It's not about salamanders being super good. It's about what Vulkan does for salamanders. So with that, guys, I'm going to end it, and I appreciate you all. Make sure to check out the links down below so that you can get coaching, so that you can enhance your ability to play the game, and you can join the private Discord for access to some of the best minds in Warhammer 40,000. Until next time, crump on. Bye-bye.